There we go. Is that better? Yes. All right. So, John Wexler, do you have an invocation for us today?
Yes.
Where are you? I can't even see you.
It's the short one back.
There we go. All right. Stand up, John.
Can you hear me? Okay. Please bow your heads. Lord, thank you for this day. I ask that you would guide our paths today, and more specifically, our thoughts, words, and actions. Please be with us throughout this day and help us navigate whatever comes our way. Help us to reflect and live out our lives in a way that is honoring to you. Amen.
Amen. Cheryl, would you please lead us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Shattuck has a wonderful Rotary Minute for us today.
As you join different Rotary clubs, they give you different things when you become a member. I was going through my office recently and I found this from one of the Rotary clubs that I've belonged to. It's the Declaration of Rotarians in Businesses and Professions. As a Rotarian engaged in a business or profession, I am expected to, 1, consider my vocation to be another opportunity to serve. 2, be faithful to the letter and to the spirit of the ethical codes of my vocation, to the laws of my country, and to the moral standards of my community. 3, do all in my power to dignify my vocation and to promote the highest ethical standards in my chosen vocation. 4, be fair to my employer, employees, associates, competitors, customers, the public, and all those with whom I have a business or professional relationship. 5, recognize the honor and respect due to all occupations which are useful to society. 6, offer my vocational talents to provide opportunities for young people, to work for the relief of the special needs of others, and to improve the quality of life in my community. 7, adhere to honesty in my advertising and in all representations to the public concerning my business and profession. And finally, 8, neither seek from nor grant to fellow Rotarians a privilege or advantage not normally accorded to others in a business or professional relationship.
Thank you, Don. That's great.
I'm going to try and scan that in and attach it to the newsletter.
That's to summarize that would probably be the 4-way test. And I would like to thank Phil and is Charlie here? Charlie in advance, I was going to say, for takedown, and Tom Buck for getting here early and help set up. Patrick, thanks for being a greeter. No one can greet like an Irishman, right? All right. I do want to introduce a few guests that we have. Number one is we have a visiting Rotarian over here, Jay Weber. But he brought his daughter Caitlin here. So, Caitlin, stand up, take a bow. So, you know, Jay, I think permanently after this is going to be down in Mexico City, hooting and hollering, smoking cigars, playing with the cartels, that kind of stuff. So, we're going to miss you, Jay, a lot. And we do have our 3 members that will be inducted on the 2nd of April. If you just stand up so people can get used to your smiling faces. You know, they were voted on almost unanimously. There was one holdout. Just kidding. Just kidding. And then we have our speakers over here who will be introduced a little bit later. So first off, John Peterson, do you have a web minute or what's new on the web this week?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, let's see here.
Yeah, I think I lowered it to 70.
Yeah, it's warm. Sorry about
Try and
that.
lower it again.
Must be all the hot air in here. Anyway. So here's your new website, obviously, and what I want to show you today is how you can send an email to all the members and how you can find your member information. So upper right-hand corner, member area. When you get there, you've got your little shortcuts here in the middle, and you'll see that number 1 is View Club Directory right here on the first column down there. And when you do that, you'll come up with everybody's name and email addresses and phone numbers. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is if you want to send an email, again, you go here to Email Message Center, and this will give you the ability to send an email. You come over to the orange box, compose an email. Then you can come over here on the left and decide who you want to send it to. So in this case, it would be all active and honorary members. That would be the only ones you'd probably ever send. And then just fill out the rest of the email on how you want to address the people and then your message down below.
John, can we cut and paste into that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can cut and paste on this, so, but I think it's going to ask you to, you sort of have to do it twice because of the way the browser works, but you can do it no problem at all.
Okay.
Any questions? Don?
Yeah, a comment. If people are not receiving the email.
Microphone.
If people are not receiving copies of the newsletter each week, it means your email in the directory is wrong. So if you're not receiving the newsletter, check your email address in the club directory.
Okay, and I have checked the bounce backs, and right now there is none. So all the email addresses that are for our members go somewhere. Now, if you're not getting them, then you need to go into your profile and change it to the one that you look at all the time and not the one you had 17 years ago. Samantha.
So when you send out this group email, if somebody replies, does that come to the sender's email?
Yes.
Okay. Sure.
John?
Yep.
I just want to remind everybody some email protocol. Replying.
What is that?
Replying to all when you it really doesn't, unless you really want everybody to see it. I mean, I can see us getting, 120 emails by the time a list is over, replying to all and then replying to all again and replying to all again. Don't copy everybody if you don't have to. Copy
here.
Well, I think that's what Samantha said, but I wasn't positive that's what she was saying. And I want to be really blunt with it, truthfully. Don't do it.
Okay, so you all know Randy's email address. I want you all to go home today and send him an email telling him what a great meeting we had.
I'm going to change that today.
Anything else? Yes, sir, John.
I asked you a question last week about Club Runner versus Best Rotary,
Yes.
and your answer was?
You can get to this any way you want. You can go to the email address that we use, which is, you'll see it up here, the portal. But if you just go to bestrotary.com or bestrotary.org, it'll go here, you'll get here automatically. So you don't have to worry about trying to figure out a new URL. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks, John. Okay, is Roxy here? I don't see her. Where is she? I can't see her. There she is. Roxy was the only soul that showed up from this club to join the millennials in putting together blessing bags last week. And thank you, Roxy, for doing that. Now, I know that the date got moved like twice, so I can understand why we didn't have more participation, but they did get them done. We have 2 boxes of them up here for you to take for later. I've got a box in my truck that'll probably be gone before the end of the week. So please take some with you. Roxy, how many? You did 400, right?
Yeah, we did 400, and
You want to get a microphone?
We did 400 boxes, and I have to tell you, next time we need to coordinate to where some more people get there. I have to tell you, when you only have 4 people doing it, it gets grueling, as opposed to having 20 people go through the line. I think the first time we did it, it was done like in an hour, but that's because we had like all of AlloSource employees helping us. But so Eric and I talked about some different ways of coordinating it and making sure that we get a boatload of people there so that it goes a lot faster.
Roxy, next time we can do it at my studio. We got those 2 big tables. You can just
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Samantha, would you like to make a little announcement? A little one.
little one. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. So this is just a reminder that on April 23rd, we will be having an off-site meeting at Cobell Library. So those of you who are new, sometimes we decide to skip Embassy Suites and go out to another place. And so this month it's going to be Cobell Library. And we are actually having the foundation meeting that day, so please be there because everyone is part of the foundation and we need a quorum because there's going to be elections. So please be sure to come.
Thanks, Samantha. You guys don't know how much work she puts into getting these off-site meetings taken care of. Yes?
Tim, I wanted to add to the blessing bags. There were more millennials there than just me and 3 other people. They also did a canvas and mocktails that night. That's right. So at any one time, there were about 4 of us. But the millennials were in and out because they were also doing canvas and mocktails with a group of developmentally disabled adults. So just wanted you to know that more than 3 millennials came.
Okay. All right. Samantha Rowe, would you like to give us an update on State of the City?
Sure. State of our City is Wednesday, April 17th. We're doing really well with the sponsorships for table sales, and if you would like to participate a day of coordination, you can go online to the website and register for the on the main page of the website. There is information about State of our City, and it has the registration for members. Members will be charged $22, and if you register there, you can go in, and then I'll be able to assign you for volunteer positions. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Samantha. She's doing a great job, everybody. Really is.
Tim, may I interject here?
You
Thank
certainly can.
Good morning, everyone. And if you didn't know already, our Charlie had his batteries replaced in his pacemaker yesterday. I have not heard back from Mary Alice yet, but keep them in your thoughts, first of all. And second of all, we are having bingo at our Primetimers April meeting on April 18th. If you have a prize that you'd like to donate, gender neutral if possible, see me today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Ann, do you need to say anything about Meals on Wheels?
Yeah, briefly.
All right.
2 slots. I have 2 slots available, April 5 and April 12th. I've talked to a few people here, and and I'll get back to you, and that's great. But April 5 is a week and a half away, and I'd appreciate getting somebody on that. So let me know if you can participate, and you'll have a great time.
Thanks, Ann.
Tim, who's doing meals this Friday? Okay, well, I'll figure it out.
Just wanted to remind everybody that we have the food drive coming up on April 20th, and I still have some slots available, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. And you just go out to the website, and you can sign up on the website. I'm going to be gone for the next couple of weeks, so hopefully when I get back, all those slots will be filled. So
That's going to be a busy week.
Yeah, just go to the calendar, look under the 20th of April, and click on it, and then you can sign up.
Okay. Yes, Randy.
I think most of you remember chat group number 2 during the blizzard was canceled, even though Phil wanted me to go ahead and hold it. I really care about the folks that are in my chat group. No, I didn't. So we've rescheduled for next Tuesday at Urban Sombrero on Clinton at 5 o'clock. And if anybody wants to come and join us, please do. I think we've got a full group. Maybe one won't be there. But and folks, if you guys want to come also as new members, almost new members, please join us. You know, it's great fun to get to know some of the other Rotarians.
What do you do?
We just sit around and chat. That's why it's called a chat group.
Well, Randy, next Tuesday they will be members.
Oh, perfect. Then that's great. It'd be a perfect way for you to attend something right after that. That's exactly right. Wait, on second thought.
All right. There's no more new business. We'll just go ahead and go straight to travel gifts. I'm sorry, yeah, travel gifts.
So I feel like all we do is travel. Eric says hello from Kenya. He's in Nairobi, and he actually, he's like, there's animals. And so he's having fun playing with the animals and doing some business. But anyway, we went to Hawaii, and I went to the Rotary Club of Honolulu. They actually were a really lively bunch, but they also meet at noon, so I think they had a few extra hours to wake up. And they meet at the Royal Hawaiian on Waikiki Beach, which probably makes everybody a lot happier. They do greet you with leis, so I got the most beautiful lei when I walked in, and so I highly recommend it. They're super friendly, and if you go to Hawaii, it's worth it. So anyway, my travel gift. Hawaii is all about fun and drinking, so we have some Hawaiian-themed wine.
Coasters? Wine
we
identifier.
have sea-themed coasters, and then you got to have a beer opener. So there you go. So that's our
All right.
our gift.
How nice is that? Any other travel gifts? Yes? Go ahead, Karen.
So John and I took a trip to Phoenix for his mother's 99th birthday. And on the way down there, of course, we did hit some snow, and we had to stop in Pie Town, New Mexico, because there was a whiteout on the road and we couldn't see where we were going. But they had a gathering place where we had lunch, and we also ate pie. So I brought a cookbook from the Pie Town Pie Festival Pie Cookbook. And then on the way back, so normally when we go to Phoenix, we drive straight through. But because of the weather going down there, and then we had car issues with the tire coming back, we took 2 days each time. So that allowed us to make a stop on the way back. We stopped in Winslow, Arizona, and stood on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. So I got a book that's the best hints on Route 66. So if you ever want to travel Route 66, or you might want to check this book out, and it might make you want to travel Route 66, because there's a lot of interesting places. And also, our chat group is meeting tomorrow at the Meatball Eatery at 6, and it's on Arapahoe Road over by Target. So if anybody wants to join us, let me know.
Those are the last 2 chat groups. If you hadn't been to one, great opportunity.
Do we have any other travel gifts? All right, before we get to Happy Bucks, this is the sign-up sheet for next week. John's going to start passing it around. So let's try and fill all the slots before we finish the meeting today. And also, I don't know if any of you noticed my high-tech gavel today. Our gavel is missing. You know, we almost didn't have the meeting this morning because we didn't have a gavel. But if anybody can think of where it might be, tell John. We can't find it. With that, John, are you doing Happy Bucks? No, you're not. You're doing Blue Marble, I think.
I'm doing them. It's a John. It's one of the Johns.
Yeah, there we go. John is.
Okay, so let's see. We kind of sprang this on you. Haven't had a chance to reach into your pocket or your wallet. So, John, you've got your hand out quickly.
I do. I am so delighted to have our guests, and I'm looking forward to hearing their presentation.
Good.
Bert.
There's just one, because 20 minutes before the sun came up this morning, it was a beautiful set of clouds to the east.
We got 8 people at this table, and well, the other John Wexler.
I just want to thank everybody that's a guest for coming.
Okay. Doug.
I'm happy that the Major League Baseball season is about to resume and that we will be able to see our Rockies. Yay!
Randy.
This is for our guest Rotarian, who I'm sure is about to create a Rotary Club in Mexico City that can be a sister club to ours. So let's make that happen. All right. Perfect.
He's actually Patrick.
Yeah, I have a dollar because I'm happy that my wife Ange and I are heading for Florida for 2.5 weeks. So it's the Sunshine State.
All right. Roxy.
I'm just happy it's Tuesday and I'm a Rotary.
John.
I've got 2. First is because I finally had the chance to stand on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. If you get a chance, it's a lot of fun. There's actually a flatbed Ford, and they've got what looks like a building set up behind it, except it's just a wall. There's not really a building there. And then the second one is we've got tickets for the home opener, so go Rockies.
Diana.
I have no change. I have 10 ecstatic bucks this morning because after swiping left for many years and kissing a bunch of frogs, I am ecstatic to announce that my Prince Charming.
Congratulations.
I think John was in a daze after that announcement.
You guys have been so welcoming and so friendly. We are very, very pleased to become a member of what you have as a very happy club, and one that seems to be doing a ton of stuff, which is really nice. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, appreciate you coming.
Here's a happy 5. I'm happy because the call went out and I could help out. And so Gordon and I are going to go interview potential RILA students tomorrow afternoon.
All right.
And I think between the Aurora Gateway Club and this club, we're going to have all those spots filled. So we've got that many kids. I'm also happy because this Thursday I get to have lunch with a very dear friend of Mark's and mine. Mark's my husband. And it's retired Admiral Michelle Howard. She is the first 4-star black female admiral ever.
Wow.
And she grew up with Mark. So it's always nice when she's in town and can spend a few minutes with us.
Can we get her here for a speaker, as a speaker?
Would you like to pay $35,000?
Let me check the budget.
I I will see what I can do. She did, as a favor for me, came to town and spoke at a gathering, and that was last year. She is teaching right now in Washington, D.C., and she's also just got elected for the first time. There is a black female to the board of directors for IBM.
Wow.
Which is a big deal. I will ask her on Thursday, but I can't guarantee anything.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Deborah. Brad?
I'll need an IOU for $5. All to my wife, who, with great trepidation, turned her big 4-0 this past weekend. And so my goal was just to distract her from that as much as humanly possible. And so we had a nice bowling party with a bunch of friends, and then took her out to the Keg Steakhouse, which, if you haven't been there, they have buy one, get one free birthday specials if you sign up on their birthday list, so I recommend them. It's excellent. The Keg. They used to be downtown. Now they're over by Colorado Mills. So.
Just be careful. You know, when you ask her to change her diapers in a few years, she's going to say, remember when I had my 40th birthday?
Ann.
There we are. Well, this is because I'm glad to see Weber. Haven't seen him in a while. But then when I asked him if he would do a Meals on Wheels, of course he's in Mexico City. So that's the way it goes.
Long distance. John Peterson.
How does the other guy look?
He's very handsome.
Anyway, this is a happy buck for the Colorado Avalanche. They're still in the playoffs. Got a wild card spot going, so root them on. 6 more games to go.
Wow. Kevin, we missed that suit you wore a couple weeks ago. Lori.
No. I have a happy 5. Couple things. Spring seems to be here, and I'm pretty excited about that, except for, it did drop a tree in front of my house when we had that bomb cyclone the other day. It was a very nice blue spruce, and I'm very sad about that. However, blessing in disguise, it did not fall on my house. So I'm very appreciative of that.
I have 25.
Wow.
Probably you haven't noticed, but I haven't been here this month. But on the 5th of March, Yvonne and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. So that's 20 for that. It's actually for her, so she's been very patient. And the other 5, there's many things to be thankful for. Jay, good luck. Paisano, yeah, he's a wetback now because he doesn't have a work permit in Mexico. So, the second one, I was just talking to my friend here, and I don't know if many of the members of the club know the history of the gavel that we have, and I'm bummed that it's missing. I hope that we can find it. That gavel was brought to the club by dear Hank, Catherine's dad, and it was the gavel that he used when he was the president or chair or whatever that position may be in the Demolay.
I'm using his pin.
So it's a very special gavel. I hope we can find it and we can take good care of it. It has a lot of history. So that's the second one. And then obviously the Rockies are coming. That's nice. It's always awesome. And the last 2. I'm finally recovering my color from the game on Sunday. I can finally breathe. Go Duke!
Catherine.
So I have a happy 5. I will say to the newly engaged one, my mom gave me a card after my first boyfriend broke up with me that said you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince. And John and Karen will attest to my vows. I brought it up and said I didn't realize I had to kiss so many frogs. So welcome to the post-kissing frog era. Congratulations. I really, I'm super excited for you. We've been missing. I think Eric might actually be back next week, but it does feel good to be back. Not that anybody maybe follows CU. Because of who I am, I have to follow CU. Because of who I'm married to, I have to follow them. So they're still in the NIT tournament. Go Buffs. And last but not least, following on Duke, I don't know if you guys saw the interview post that game, but the coach, the coach who almost beat him was his prodigy. He had so much respect, and I think he would have been equally as joyful to have lost the game as he won, and I think that's just class, and it was good to see. So give up Coach K.
I got 5 happy bucks. Not pesos. 5 happy pesos. First one is I'm very happy that none of the stuff Randy Pye warned me about what happened to me in Mexico City. He tried to scare me to death about getting murdered and kidnapped. And yeah, thanks, Randy. Appreciate it. Second one, I'm very thankful for this club. This club is amazing. When you're not around it for a little bit, you really miss it. I went to a Rotary meeting in Mexico City, and I show up, and there's 5 guys there sitting around a table in a hotel, and I'm like, oh, I already introduced myself. It's too late now. So I'm still looking for a bigger Rotary club in Mexico City. But they did talk about the ideas, what you guys do in this club, and the Happy Bucks, and the state of the city, and the fundraising is just, you guys do a lot of really cool stuff that other Rotary clubs, I think, have a hard time pulling off so much stuff. So I'm glad to be part of this club. One is an apology buck because I didn't bring back any travel gifts. I've discovered the world of Mexican wines, which are actually amazing, and you can't buy them anywhere here in the United States. So when I come back next time, I'll bring a case of wine and I'll donate it to the cause. So
when will that be, Jay? Thought I could get him.
Just a couple bucks. One for our new members. Thank you for choosing Centennial Rotary. It's definitely a great club, as I'd say with Jay, and I really fell in love with it when I joined last year. And then one is an apology buck to our guests. I do have to leave. We're going through the punch list on our new office this morning, so I got to get out and check that out. So.
I've got 3. It's soccer season again for youth, and I get to brag about my granddaughter. She is in Cup. Scored the only goal for her team as a defender. I want to thank John Peterson for being a very competent and patient instructor for teaching me how to send the newsletter out using Club Runner.
You were a good student.
And for Andrus and March Madness, an employment agency crunched the numbers and determined that American companies lose as much as $1.9 billion in wages during this month, paid to unproductive workers spending company time on March Madness basketball betting pools.
I think unproductive is kind of harsh. Well, I think Roxy can attest to that too from our board meeting on Friday night, about how productive it was because March Madness was on TV.
They actually asked Warren Buffett if he wasn't encouraging his employees to do less work by putting up his $1 million a year money for a perfect bracket, and he said they were going to do it anyway. I have 5. First of all, for my guests, and Peter Van Arsdale, who's a good friend of mine, and I attend the WASH monthly meetings of the Rotary District, and Peter's very involved there. Also, for those of you who hadn't noticed, I visited the dermatologist. We had a little fight, and we both won.
All right, I have a couple here. One is for our guests, thank you very much. And the other one is for what goes on behind the scenes in this club. We would not be doing all the things that we do today without a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So I just, I tip my hat to all of you. Thank you very much for doing that. With that, John, would you like to?
Yeah, who gets all this with that, Barb?
Oh, we still got some, huh? Bye, John.
Our program today is an exciting program because it actually is an attempt to address some issues that are near and dear to Rotary and actually cover two of our areas of emphasis, which are maternity, motherhood, and also in a roundabout way, clean water. And Peter Van Arsdale, as I mentioned, I've gotten to know well through our Rotary Wash Committee, and he is a professor at DU. He has authored some books and is very involved and interested in Africa, and he is going to introduce the other people that he brought with him this morning. Peter?
Thanks, John. Thanks, folks. It's nice to be here. Nice to see you. I know some of you. Many I don't know, but I hope to get to know. On a lighthearted note, this one gentleman is celebrating his wife's 40th birthday. Exactly 40 years ago was my first trip to East Africa. It's probably right the day your wife was born. Touché. So it's great to be here and great to have a 40-year experience working in East Africa. I thank my friend John McCarty for inviting me, John Holtzman and others who've been in good communication. As John says, I am a professor at the University of Denver at the Joseph Corbell School of International Studies. I direct African initiatives there. I'm semi-retired, but still very active at DU and very active with Rotary. I'm a member of the Denver Southeast chapter, and I'm the champion, Rotary champion for this project that you will hear about today for our district, for District 5450. We're hoping, and in fact are engaging clubs throughout the district. We hope your club might get interested too in what we have to share. As John says, the two intersections of WASH, a major Rotary mandate, and maternal health care, another major Rotary mandate, come together in this exciting program. I was so excited about it that I wrote up a little synopsis of what I thought was great, and my friend Dr. Miggs Muldrow, who is the founder and executive director of the Village Health Partnership, was nice enough to put it on page 3 of this handout. So if you'd like to read what I think are some of the very cool, genuinely cool things about this program, you'll see my synopsis on page 3 of this handout. And then at your table, there's also another handout, which we hope that you'll enjoy and read. Dr. Miggs grew up in Ethiopia, as I say, is the founder and executive director of the Village Health Partnership. Lori Bowman is the board chair, and she'll be doing most of the speaking today. Miggs and I are available for questions and Q&A. Miggs is an expert on Ethiopia. My first trip to Ethiopia was in 1992, and I've been there on a number of occasions, and I've certainly enjoyed working there. The reason I'm serving as a Rotary champion is real simple. In my 40 years of working in East Africa in a number of nations, this is one of the best and most well-organized and I think most impactful projects that I've seen. So, with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Lori Bowman.
Good morning. And thanks. It is a huge privilege to be here this morning for any number of reasons. First, because it's WASH, your Wash and Sanitation Month here. And it's a privilege for me personally because I just became the chair of the board, and I'm very excited to speak about what we do. And then lastly, because in my day job, I work literally right on the other side of I-25 off of Arapahoe Road as a lawyer for United Healthcare. And I can assure you that my mornings, when I'm speaking to large audiences, don't start off with people celebrating what they're happy for. So I personally am really happy to celebrate the fact that I'm here. So just diving right in, we are, let's go back. We are Village Health Partnership, and I'm going to talk quickly about who we are, where we work, what we do, and the focus that our work took on a few years ago to really impact WASH. We are a Colorado nonprofit with a unique mission. Our mission is focused around preventing maternal and neonatal death and childbirth, and preventing and treating serious gynecologic complications of pregnancy. And if folks have done with their breakfast and really want to talk to Dr. Miggs about what those are afterwards, we can go into the details. Our approach is unique. We've been doing this work in Ethiopia, in rural Ethiopia, for about a decade. And we believe a key component to our success in the work is that we start at the grassroots and we stay at the grassroots. We build partnerships in the communities we work in with leaders, community stakeholders, local healthcare providers, and local government agencies. Our goals in doing our work are to create a system that has the capacity and the skill to safely deliver babies, so the system will be accessed and people will be healthier families. Where do we work? So in this lovely map of Ethiopia, you can see the 4 circles starting in the north and circling around to the west, which is going to be around Sudan, and then down to the southwest. Starting at the top, we work in the West Gojam zone, in the west, Kellam and Western Walaga zones, and in the southwest, in the Bench Maji zone and the Gamagofa zone. These are all very rural areas where the vast majority of the people who live there live in villages and make their lives as subsistence farmers. What do we do? We have 3 main areas in which we work. We work in healthcare, we work in capacity building, and then in education and training. In healthcare, we started a program in the West, in the Western Walaga zone, to treat women who had experienced serious gynecologic complications of pregnancy. We started a first ever program that brought a doctor, and there aren't many doctors in the country. We brought a doctor out to the rural villages to actually screen women for these conditions, and then we partnered with a hospital where this doctor could surgically repair these women so they wouldn't suffer, impacting their families, impacting their village lives. They could return to being functional members of their family. And they would have that touch point, that experience with the healthcare system of saying, this is a good place. People can trust the healthcare system for deliveries of these babies to prevent future women from suffering from those same conditions. That sits on top of capacity building. So if you have a program and you want women to come to a facility, the facility has to have the capacity to do the work. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then a big focus of ours is on education and training, training the folks that work in the facilities, skill building for rural healthcare providers, helping babies breathe, essential care for every newborn, helping elevate skills in basic emergency neonatal and obstetric care. And then we have a first ever scholarship program for nurse midwives, for young people who want to become a nurse midwife and work in the communities, to get an education at a qualified program and return to the communities to provide nurse midwife services. In 2016, we conducted an extensive survey. We traveled many miles through those 4 areas to assess the deep needs at 13 health facilities. These are facilities that are designed to accommodate a number of people, but the actual capacity they serve, the communities they serve, the numbers of people who access them, far greater than what they were built for. What did we find? We found that when women would want to come to deliver, they would have no place to stay. We found that these facilities, by and large, had no water. Not clean water, no water, period. The facilities were lacking in basic critical supplies that you would need: gowns, gloves, face masks, forceps, things that you would expect to see if you were going to be delivering lots of babies. Unsterilized equipment, because if there's no water, it's hard to imagine that communities would be devoting resources to sterilizing equipment. We thought deeply about what the context for this was. So what was driving this situation? In rural Ethiopia, most women give birth at home. 1 in 10 die in their village. Another 3 to 4 of the 10 women suffer serious gynecologic complications, which will impair their ability to be a mother, to be a functioning member of their community. We seek to understand what the best solutions are, framed by what the World Health Organization and best practices inform us. That women will fare better, neonatal success rates will be higher if there's a skilled birth attendant present at the delivery. So we asked ourselves, okay, if we know that this is the best practice and we know the current state is what we just saw, what do we do? This is one of my favorite slides because we can't imagine having a delivery without water. I bet almost everybody in the room can reference some TV show from 10 or 20 years ago where somebody's saying, I'm going to have the baby, and somebody else says, I'm going to go boil the water. Well, if you don't have any water, you can't boil anything. And it's the beginning of that base level of capacity that we seek to build to create that safe delivery experience. So, working in partnership with the community stakeholders, with the government organizations in the communities that support the health facilities, working with national or NGOs on the ground. We developed a pilot project for 5 health centers, focusing on, first, where can women go to stay? Maternity waiting areas. These are culturally meaningful places where women can stay with their families, where they can prepare food, where they can wash and have a latrine while they're waiting to deliver by the health facility. We worked to identify ways we could partner with the facilities to clean up their compounds so they would have a clean environment in which to deliver care. Biohazard areas, placenta pits, incinerators, hand washing stations in the labor and delivery areas with actual water and soap. It's been an incredible journey. I was telling somebody, in fact, yesterday that on my 3rd trip, we were interviewing women who had been in the program on the campus of a health facility. Literally, I was as far away from the building as I am to that table, and there was an unclean biohazard area right out back. And as we're sitting there interviewing women, there were cows grazing right by, and it just showed us there's a great opportunity to improve the functioning of the facilities, to improve the health of the community. We're in the first phase of the initiative in the 4 health centers in Shebench, Chabra, Jammu, and Tum. We're working to build the maternity waiting areas. We'll be traveling to Ethiopia in a few weeks here with Peter and Dr. Miggs to look at the construction in progress. We are excited for phase 2, where we will partner with a bigger hospital that these health centers feed into, where there'll be a higher level of care available. And then we're even more excited for the 3rd phase, assuming we will attain the success we're hoping to attain in the first phase. We'll deploy the pilot program to more facilities. We are partnering with the Rotary in Addis Ababa, and one of the NGOs that we do a lot of our construction work with to build the maternity waiting areas is a member of the Addis Club. So we're excited for this partnership and to continue work we've started with Shemeto, who's our member in Addis, to keep our long-term sustainable relationships. Thank you for your time. Thanks. Questions, please. Yes.
Is Ethiopia more needy than other areas of the world in particular? And if so, why?
So Ethiopia, and I'm citing statistics that might be a few years out of date, but Ethiopia is the 3rd poorest country in the African continent. It doesn't have many of the natural resources that other countries in Africa have. and it's landlocked, so it hasn't had the opportunity for a lot of international interest in economic development. Not only that, so the government doesn't have a whole lot of funding to work with, and what little funding the government has, it doesn't necessarily deploy that funding into the rural healthcare infrastructure.
On your slide where you talked about the different phases, they all look like they were completing this next month.
Well, in detail, they will not all be completed in April, but we will be traveling in April to look at different aspects of it.
Okay.
So some of the depending on which facility we're talking about, we have different goals for completion, with some of the most key goals being the maternity waiting areas and personal protective equipment, gowns, gloves, masks, in the health centers, and construction of systems, whether it's a well to get water into the labor and delivery areas.
Okay.
I can speak a little bit to that. So phase one of the project was working closely with the government. The government's responsibility in 5 health facilities was to clean compounds and the facilities, to put in fenced biohazard areas with placenta pits, and then to clean latrines and put in hand washing stations and be ready to educate and train healthcare providers. Our role was implementing maternity waiting areas with kitchen showers and pit latrines, and then bringing clean water to each health facility, making sure those other latrines in the health facility were clean and present, and then putting in hand washing stations. So in all 5 facilities, phase one will be completed with the maternity waiting area infrastructure and clean water, except phase 2, which is the Bachuma Hospital water system. So when we go back in April, the phase 1 should be complete, though I know they're finishing up and they have a few details to attend to. What's not going to be complete is the Bachuma Hospital water system. And that hospital is a district hospital, serves 350,000 people. They cannot open because they have no access to water. So we're bringing 2 engineers from WEFTA. Water engineers for the Americas and Africa out of Santa Fe are coming with us. And we are going to investigate the best possible way to get water to that hospital. We have in the past worked with Engineers Without Borders, but the solution was not clear to the community. They were afraid about costs, and so they did nothing. So now on this trip, we're really going to hone in on the Bachuma Hospital water system and make phase 2 getting water to that hospital. That phase will take, I'm imagining, 6 months. At the same time on this trip, we're going to be assessing 4 new health facilities. And if they complete phase 1, and if we can complete phase 2, then we'll move the model to 4 new health facilities. So.
Yes.
First, let me just say that I commend the work that your organization is doing in terms of bringing these opportunities. The second is a question. Are you working in collaboration with any other organizations to provide both knowledge and availability of birth control to these organizations, to these particular areas?
Meigs, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So early on, we looked at what we should be doing when we face this great need in the rural areas. And WHO says 3 things make a difference for maternal neonatal mortality and gyn complications of childbirth. 1 is birth control. 2 is access to skilled assistance at the time of delivery. And number 3 is access to emergency obstetric care. Now, USAID funds in gender health that has been working with the Ethiopian government on birth control. And they're actually really doing a pretty good job reaching remote areas in Ethiopia. Could they do even more? Probably. But we chose not to focus on that issue because gender health was so active, even in the most remote areas of Ethiopia where we work. So we're more focused on providing skilled assistance at the time of delivery and increasing access to emergency obstetric care. But birth control is number 1, absolutely number 1.
And to kind of dovetail sort of at a higher level on Meigs' answer, one of the values that we embrace in doing our work is not to replicate the work that other NGOs are doing effectively in the area. And so from my point of view, what we're tackling are some of the harder, more systemic, bigger problems that require the long-term commitment to be effective.
Very basic question. We kept on seeing WASH. What does that even stand for? Maybe you said it and I just missed it.
No, it's a great question. It stands for water, sanitation, and hygiene.
Okay. And early on, you mentioned 10% of all women, basically 1 out of 10, are going to die in childbirth. So it doesn't mean 1 out of 10 pregnancies are going to end in the death of the mother, but still 1 out of 10 women are dying from that. And you said 30 to 40% of all births,
all women
end up with gynecological complications.
Mm-hmm.
So these, can you give some examples?
I can give a layperson's
Okay.
description of what it is, and if anybody has the clinical appetite, Migs can provide. There'll be a complication of childbirth where at the end of the delivery, the mother may not have had the surgical services that we have here to keep your internal structure intact. So you may, after delivery, experience damage that requires surgical repair to make sure that you're not incontinent of urine and stool. Yes. Like I said, if anyone has
we don't
more
need to
detail.
know. I have a couple of questions about the work with other organizations. Are you connected like with Project Cure or any of those other organizations that provide
Funny
equipment?
you should ask. We've done several different things with Project Cure. We've done a shipment of a container of equipment out to one of the very rural, remote hospitals in the Western Wallaga area that we partner with. And we were able to partner with another international organization, the Clinton Foundation, to help bring engineers to that area to not only get this equipment installed, but to train people on how to use it. So we did that project with Project Cure, and another project we did with Project Cure was in our education area, because Project Cure does have an educational arm where we used one of their trainers, or actually 2 of their trainers, to come with us to launch our program in training on the essential skills for every rural healthcare provider.
Excellent. And if I may, a follow-up question, more important for this group, how is your connection with Rotary? Are you doing any grants with Rotary? What's that inner working relationship with Rotary?
I'll let Migs and Peter speak to that if they'd like, but
So on the first issue on partnerships, we have a unique model in Ethiopia where we partner with Ethiopian NGOs on the ground. So in each area that we're working, we've identified leadership and we work through Ethiopian NGOs on the ground. On the U.S. side, we certainly have partnered with Project Cure, as Lori outlined. Now we're partnering with University of Colorado and their Global Health Center. We hope to start doing basic research in one of the major hospitals in the South in hopes that that will inform intervention efforts in the area. The second thing is we've partnered with engineering groups, like we said, Engineers Without Borders, and now WEFTA. And the switch was purely a bureaucratic one. Engineers Without Borders, we had to pay for engineers to go with us to Ethiopia. We're a small NGO. We couldn't afford that. Now we're partnering with WEFTA, who actually I've worked with in Ethiopia, and they pay for engineers to go with us, which is really a fantastic model. So that's just the beginning in terms of partnership. In terms of Rotary, Peter Van Arsdale and I have worked, Peter really is our champion, and we've strategized about how to get Rotary involved for the long term. For sustainability, we want clubs participating with us over the next 5, 10, 20 years. We don't want a one and done. So we've worked hard here in the United States to reach out to clubs, and you guys are an example. We began talking to different clubs to get them engaged. And then on the Ethiopia side, we're partnered with the Rotary Club of Addis Ababa. Shemeta Azazao, who heads our WASH and Maternal Health Initiative in the Bench Maji Zone, is a member of that club. We don't want there to be conflict of interest. So they've actually set up a separate committee to oversee the WASH and Maternal Health Care Initiative outside of his reach. But that's how we're working. hopefully that answers.
Other questions?
Some of the things that you talked about were just kind of mind-blowing to me. So I'm just trying to get my mind around some of this stuff. So again, when we're talking 10% here and 30 to 40% there, and I'm going, was that the way it always used to be? I mean, people gave birth. You hear the stories of Vietnamese women giving birth in in the rice paddies, or Chinese or whatever, all over Asia. This was very common. Or the Native Americans, they're in the midst of their workday, they give the birth, and then they go on with their work. Was this kind of damage? Are those common statistics, or is it because women's health is so bad in Ethiopia, for example, that these percentages are much higher?
Megs is going to want to answer this question.
You know what? It's all about access to care. And there's one factoid that I can spin out there that I think will bring it home front and center. Do you realize the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City used to be a fistula hospital? At the turn of the century, women had no access to health care, to skilled assistance at the time of delivery, or to emergency obstetric care, i.e. cesarean sections. So many died in childbirth, that was common, and many developed fistula from obstructed labor, to the point where Waldorf Astoria was a hospital for fistula patients.
And what does fistula mean?
So, no, I'll explain it, because you need to understand. So when, especially first-time pregnant women go into labor, often the baby gets stuck high up in the birth canal. And as the contractions continue, they push the baby's head against the pelvic floor. Since the baby's head can't pass through the birth canal, it's obstructed, then the blood supply to tissue in the pelvic floor gets cut off, and you get big holes between the bladder and the vaginal area, or the rectum and the vaginal area. Now, in that setting, if the baby dies and dissolves and slips through the birth canal, then the mother lives, but lives with leaking urine and stool. If the baby dies, the baby will die. If the baby doesn't slip through the birth canal, then the uterus ruptures and both mother and baby die. So in Ethiopia, the 1 in 10 dying in childbirth is all about no access to health care. And I was just in Namibia, and I kept asking myself, why is Ethiopia so poor? Why is it so behind in development? And I don't really have a good answer, except that the country is high, mountainous, rugged, and people live in remote, isolated communities that haven't been touched for centuries. In Ethiopia now and today, there are 2 main roads, and off those main roads, development is happening, but out in these remote areas where VHP is working, where the need is greatest, women are still dying in childbirth. Government efforts, the government has a good model for intervention, but their effort hasn't trickled down to remote areas. And then there's areas with big conflict. In western part of Ethiopia now, there's lots of fighting, which, horrifyingly enough, I think affects women and children the most. Women cannot leave their villages to access health care when they're pregnant, and they're dying like flies. Healthcare providers have left, and they're emailing me that they have no blood in the hospitals, that they can't perform C-sections, and more women are dying. So I hope that answers your question.
I have another question. We've been talking about the mothers with all their health care issues. What happens to the babies?
Well, Megs described, if the babies are successfully delivered, they won't fare well if there's no skilled attendant and the baby needs resuscitation.
Right.
So that's a big part of the reason why we're training skilled attendants on how to deliver that essential emergency care to resuscitate newborns.
Okay, what about ongoing though? I mean, what's the infant mortality rate in Ethiopia compared to the rest of Africa?
You know, we don't have exact numbers for Ethiopia. Nobody counts the number of babies that die, and that's the truth.
Yep.
There's just too many to even fathom. I hate to say it. It's kind of horrifying. But the maternal mortality rates are dropping.
But to Miggs's earlier point, one of the studies that we're just about to launch doing in partnership with the University of Colorado will start really seeking to collect some meaningful data that will help us better understand where do we need to think about our focus years out.
Are there any other questions? And no, John. We have one over here.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Denver Southeast Club. They just generously donated to our Water Rico project. So I would love to get a card, and we'll discuss the prospect of a sure thing. That's right.
Ask your question. I didn't want to. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure. So I'll say my family in general has gone more and more towards home birth and that philosophy, and towards for example, concentrated feeding operations, which is a very modern method of you have pig farms, and so cleanliness is a real problem in those circumstances. So I'm hearing about placenta pits, for example, and I'm going, okay, when you're giving birth in a non-concentrated circumstance, that's not a problem. But yes, if you're bringing everybody in together, that's a problem. Are we creating problems by seeking a solution with a concentrated or centered rather than a more dispersed solution? Again, with the modern in America, it seems that there are people who criticize the medical establishment for having too many C-sections, for going too far. So I'm just curious what the balance is.
It is a balance. So in Ethiopia, you have VHP is training nurse midwives, and the Ethiopian government is training nurse midwives, and we are working to support nurse midwives in remote areas. So yes, women come into health centers, but it's one health center for 25,000 people. Maybe that's still too concentrated, but right now the numbers swing towards mothers dying. So we need to encourage women to come in and deliver with the assistance of a nurse midwife. And then the second thing is, if the mother is high risk, then are they getting to the regional hospital for cesarean section? And even that referral is not happening like it should, which is part of our research with University of Colorado, is who's coming into the hospital, who's getting C-sections, are they being administered appropriately, what are the outcomes, should we be doing more or less of this? But right now I can tell you we're not doing that many C-sections. So in southwestern Ethiopia, there was one OBGYN for 2.5 million people. He got diabetes and had a stroke, so now they're contracting with an OBGYN from Jimma, a nearby major medical center, to come to Mizan to work. But now in Bench Maji Zone, really two, quote, emergency surgeons. These are not medical doctors. They're like a PA that has had 2 extra years of training. They do appendectomies and cesarean sections. They've been doing the cesarean sections. So really, the issue in Ethiopia is very different than here. The issue is total lack of access to health care.
And I would add to that from the mother's point of view, right, we here have the ability to make an informed choice. And we know that if we choose to deliver at home and there's an unanticipated adverse event, we know we can go to an urgent care center probably within a few blocks of our house. We can get to a freestanding emergency room within probably 2 miles of our house, and then a hospital within a few miles beyond that. And in Ethiopia, there's not even the capacity to make that informed choice. Do I want to stay in my village, or do I want to travel?
These medical facilities, the healthcare facilities, are, I take it, more than just for mothers, right? That you guys are dealing? Yeah.
But we specifically chose 5 facilities. We're into creating health systems of care. So we chose 4 health centers that each serve 25,000 people out on the eastern part of the Bench Maji Zone on the escarpment. They feed in to the Bachuma District Hospital that then serves 350,000 people, which then feeds into the Mizan Amman Regional Hospital. So we took a little cluster of health centers and one district hospital to work on as a model to see if we couldn't lift that area.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Andres.
Just very quickly, this is more of a generic question. I remember reading somewhere that access to power was one of the major detriments in Africa for their development. So could you just tell us a little bit how the power structure in Africa is in terms of access to the grid and stuff like that?
That's a great question, because on when we were doing our deep assessment in 2016, we saw lots of young people being industrious, using the flashlight function on their cell phones to illuminate services delivered after dark because there is no power. So one of the initiatives that we've built into our capacity building is seeking to bring small, easy to maintain, easy to use solar power units to illuminate labor and delivery areas.
All right, well, thank you very, very much. It's an important service that you're doing, and we do appreciate it. Just set it down here, it's fine. Okay, now we're not done with you yet. We have another job for you.
Okay.
Please. You're going to make someone very happy. Maybe. What's the pot up to? Maybe 60, 70 bucks?
The lucky winner is 6902660.
All right. Come on up. Come on up. Yep, come on up. Come on, you got to come up here. You got to draw it in public.
I owe you $10. You see, there's a ton of clear marbles and one blue. Your job is to get the blue. And you get 2 chances.
Lower it a little bit, Trip.
One. Two clear.
That's a shame. Thank you very much, Lori. Appreciate it. Okay, just as a reminder, we do have blessing bags up here. We have some blessing bags in the back. Please take them with you. I always find it's best to keep them on the floor behind the passenger seat in the car. So when you're driving around and you see a homeless person, just take it, hand it to them. They will appreciate it. So please, up front and outside here. Okay? With that, please join me in the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? With that, have a great week.